The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. Let me start with a question this morning. What do you see when you read the word shepherd? Is it a picture of one man and his dog? The shepherd stands still while whistling and calling his sheepdog. The dog rushes round the sheep, worrying them, driving them until they run headlong into the pen. And the shepherd slams the gate and drops the latch. Or do you see someone walking along calling out, talking out loud, with a flock of sheep, all following along behind him? Every now and then he turns, has a quick count up, and calls by name any sheep that may be lagging behind or wandering off in the wrong direction. When David started writing this psalm, he had the second picture in mind. He saw himself as a sheep, with God walking ahead as his shepherd. His picture was of the shepherd scanning the horizon, looking for the good pasture, leading his sheep from one grassy oasis to another. He knew that a shepherd was able to tell when the sheep had eaten and drunk enough. The shepherd would know where the next grass and water could be found, and would know the best route to take the sheep in order to get there safely. The shepherd knows that sometimes he has to move the sheep on from what feels like a really safe and plentiful place, because there is something better further on, because the sheep need to keep moving to build muscle and stamina. All the sheep had to do was to follow the shepherd, and their wants and needs would be met. David knew the Lord. David knew that God looked after him, and he felt like one of his own sheep. He knew that God was leading him, calling him from one place of abundance to the next. He knew that God's heart towards him was of love, protection, oversight, provision. He knew that all he had to do was listen to the voice of his master, calling before him, leading him, and it would all be alright. Sadly today many of us see God in the first picture. He uses the dogs to drive us into place. His whistles and calls can be heard, but they cause the circumstances to happen around us to make us become good sheep. We can be at times a little afraid as we are harried by the dogs of circumstance, forcing us to make decisions, to take paths that will inevitably end up driving us where God wants us to go. You may think that this is a bit harsh or overly dramatic, but how peaceful are you today? Are you confidently following the voice of the shepherd as he gently leads you, walking the same path as you, clearing a way for you to simply follow behind? Or are you looking around at the decisions you have to make, trying to behave like a good Christian, with the worries of modern life snapping at your heels? Will you earn enough? Are you popular enough? Are you capable enough? These three are the unholy trinity that rob our peace, and if we are not careful, become our driving masters. What do people think of me? Am I good enough? Can I provide enough? When David declared the Lord is my shepherd, what he was saying is that these three were not important to him. He was declaring that God was enough for him. God could provide for him. God loved him and cared for him. What or who is your shepherd today? Is it truly the Lord?